joining today's webinar. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce Pinnacle Series and Eaglepoint with you. And first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Eva Lai, the Industry Account Manager with SolidCAD. And joining with me today, we have Rose Otto, the Partner Manager, and Haley, the Customer Success Enablement Specialist from Eaglepoint. So today, let's go through the quick agenda here. We're just going to have a quick introduction about SolidCAD and who is Eaglepoint and why you're here today to listen to Pinnacle Series. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper with a high-level demo of the Pinnacle Series. Next slide. So who is SolidCAD? So for those of you who do purchase software from us, you obviously might know that we are Autodesk Platinum Partner, as well as the Bluebeam Platinum Partner. We have made various different logos within our categories. For example, we have design software. We also work with visualizations with different software from Lumion, VUA, and scanning hardware devices, as well as advanced manufacturing services, construction management, and we do a lot of data management. And today we're going to talk about more of the knowledge part and how do you assess people and how do you capture knowledge. And today we're going to focus on that. Next slide. And AEC, we're really heavy focus in AEC, the architecture, engineering, and construction division, because we believe that this is a growing industry. There's so many changes going on. Softwares are ever changing, people are ever changing, and demands of our clients are ever changing. So it is a great industry to be in, and that's why we are here to do what we do. And the next slide, we're going to talk about what we do in SolidCAD for AEC divisions. So within SolidCAD, we do a variety of services, BIM related. And we do a lot of customized services and professional services from scan to BIM, data management, support, workflow. All of these, it's within our umbrella of services. And throughout the pandemic, when we were talking to our clients, we've noticed a lot of people are coming to us and ask about, oh, you know what, it's hard to train people when people are working from home. It's hard to share knowledge. It's hard to just bounce ideas off, back and forth. People used to kind of share ideas in the office, lunchroom, and in the pantry. Now that has been taken away when we're working from home. So a lot of the clients are approaching us for that. And hence we have this great, exciting partnership with Eaglepoint this year. And they are able now to enable people to continuous learning and to share the knowledge and also hope to increase productivity for our clients. Next slide. And without further ado, I'd like to bring Rose on the floor to talk about Eaglepoint, who they are, and what they do. Here you go, Rose.
Thank you so much, Ava. Thank you, everybody, for joining the webinar today. As Ava mentioned, my name is Rose Otto. I'm a partner manager with Eaglepoint Software, working very closely with Ava and the rest of her team in SolidCAD to bring the Pinnacle Series to organizations like yours. So before we dive into all of what Pinnacle Series and Knowledge Smart can do, I'd like to touch on just briefly who Eaglepoint Software is and what we do as a company. So we've been in business for quite a long time. We're a company of architects and engineers, construction managers, customer success managers, and developers. And the reason I say that is because we have developed our own platform. Our architects, engineers, construction managers create our content. So that's good to know. And together with SolidCAD, we really make sure that we are adding the most up-to-date content and most relevant content, and we work with them too on making the platform even better. So the solution we're going to be showing you today is called the Pinnacle Series. We created that platform back in 2006, and my colleague Haley will tell you more about why we created that solution. Then in 2021, we acquired Knowledge Smart, and again, Haley will tell you more about that acquisition and what that does for us. solution. But a couple things that I want to highlight too before I turn it over to her. We are one of the founding members of the Autodesk Developer Network, which means that we get early access to all the new releases for, let's say, Revit or Civil 3D. And that allows us to create that content as the release comes out. So when you do have Pinnacle Series, you'll have access to all the latest and greatest as far as content goes. We are also an authorized publisher with Autodesk and sell the solution together. And we are very, very excited about our partnership with SolidCAD. It's been great working with the team. Clients are amazing, and it's been really, really good to provide value to our clients in Canada. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Haley Lundgren, my colleague here at Eaglepoint Software, to talk about Pinnacle Series and Knowledge Smart and take you through the platform. So over to you, Haley.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Rose. Thanks, Ava, and thanks everyone for joining in today. This is an hour presentation that we'll be going through. So just a couple housekeeping items. There is a Q&A within our meeting today. So if you do have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to use that Q&A, and there will be time at the end of our presentation to address any of those questions that you have. I do want to talk a little bit about the history of Pinnacle Series, because as Rose had mentioned on our previous slide, Eaglepoint Software as an organization has been within the AEC and manufacturing space for nearly 40 years. The Pinnacle Series solution was born in 2006 because through our time in history, we've really noticed three common challenges that many organizations within these industries face. So we've developed the Pinnacle Series solution to help organizations to overcome those challenges. So they're listed here on the screen today. Pinnacle Series is a solution designed and developed to help organizations to overcome continuous learning challenges, the ability to capture and share internal knowledge, and most importantly, increasing productivity. So I do want to briefly unpack these before we jump into the Pinnacle Series solution itself. It will start around the idea of how to enhance continuous learning. Now, when you think of learning today, it does not stop after onboarding, but it's really going to be a continuous experience throughout an employee's career. So as staff or teams are looking to managers to help develop their skill sets, maybe your organization is adopting new technologies, you're implementing an update to a current version year, or you are onboarding new staff to grow teams, and you need to get those new hires up to speed and ensure that they're consuming consistent learning materials with the team that they'll be working with in order to be successful in their role. So we really want to make sure that we can decrease the amount of time it takes to get them up and running in project work. So having a training platform is really now more important than ever. Wherever staff are in the world today, whether they're working remote or in the office, this is really going to allow you to move forward and establish a quality workforce. Now, where we go next is the ability to capture and share knowledge. And this challenge has really become apparent for organizations who have several office locations or share work between teams, because it's been identified as a challenge to grab expertise or skill sets from one individual within one office location and have the ability to share that across the organization for staff to easily access that knowledge anytime and anywhere that they are, so that as you are evolving your best practices and standard operating procedures, everyone is going to be moving forward and adopting those most up-to-date best practices and procedures within your organization. And then last but not least, the most important one is definitely increasing productivity. Now with this, we want to make sure that above the structured learning that has been completed, we want to allow staff to really work smarter and become more efficient in their project work. Now that the formal structured learning has been completed, staff still need to be enabled to apply those new skills that were learned with performance support by providing easy to access, just-in-time resources that consist with the appropriate guidance and reference materials to enable that high-level performance to help increase modeling consistency and quality of project work across teams. So deliverables will ultimately be reaching deadlines, projects will be completed under budget, and with that quality work to help achieve the overall business goals of your organization. Now, that is a high-level overview of why Pinnacle Series has evolved into the solution that you're going to see today. So for the remainder of the time, I am going to jump into the Pinnacle Series solution itself to talk a little bit about how we can use this from both an end user's perspective as well as from an administrator's perspective to overcome those challenges. And as I mentioned, this is a live demonstration. There will be allotted time at the end of our presentation today for any questions that you may have. So feel free to use that Q&A within our meeting today to send over those questions that you may have throughout the presentation. Now I will jump into the Pinnacle Series solution. So what you're seeing right now on the screen is the Pinnacle Series home screen interface. What I first want to mention is Pinnacle Series is a completely brandable and customizable platform. So I've actually incorporated the SolidCAD color theme and images. What I want to point out though is that you can incorporate your own color themes and images within the Pinnacle Series solution. So as staff and teams are coming in to consume learning resources, this is really going to look and feel like an internal trusted solution. Pinnacle Series is a browser-based solution as well, making it easily accessible. So whether staff are working from home, they're in the office, even on a job site and they have a tablet, they can come in to Pinnacle Series and reference all the same learning resources that have been published within this platform anywhere that they are. Now, I would like to do a quick tour of the home screen. A couple of items is that this is going to be personalized. So Pinnacle Series understands who you are and what your role is within the organization. You are able to update some of your own user preferences. So if you prefer a different layout of the screen, you are able to change the different screen layouts because this is a customizable platform. You're also able to establish your own language preference. So if you have a different preferred native language, you can go ahead and change those language preferences, and all of the text-based materials within Pinnacle Series will be translated into that language. So that is definitely available within Pinnacle Series. Now, as an end user, logging in to consume different resources, a majority of their time is going to be spent in the center area here, utilizing the search engine, work groups, or the learning. What I first want to talk about is going to be our asset libraries though. And this is going to be an area where you're able to consume or really gain a lot of value of a subscription to the Pinnacle Series platform. Now, as Rose mentioned at the beginning, we are a company of architects, engineers, and construction managers who are authoring authorized Autodesk technology content within the platform. So with a subscription to Pinnacle Series, you will have access to subscribe to a variety of libraries that will span well above and beyond the Autodesk technologies. So it starts with AIA. We also have CPD accredited learning within the platform. We do go above and beyond those Autodesk technologies. So you'll see there is Adobe content. Bluebeam is very popular, of course. There's global BIM standards, McNeil, even Microsoft. And we also publish a Pinnacle Series library itself to make sure that you have on-demand resources of how to use this solution and get this implemented within your organization. Autodesk is going to be our most robust library though. So the construction cloud is definitely a very popular area that is ever growing today. So as new technologies emerge, these libraries are continuously growing. Autodesk is going to be our most robust library though. So you have access to a variety of those products that you can subscribe to. These will come pre-packaged out of the box, filled with helpful resources to help accommodate different learning styles. We've also published learning spanning across multiple version years. So as projects may still require an older version year, you can ensure that those are visible for teams. Otherwise, we have complete control over this. So simply choose to turn off any of those older version years and ensure everyone is referencing the latest and greatest in the technology resources. Now, again, there are going to be 4 different resources available within Pinnacle Series. First off is going to be our structured learning paths. These will consist of how to teach new skills of a technology. So maybe it's someone new to the technology and they're looking for the fundamentals. Otherwise, maybe you are transitioning between version years and we need to learn what's new between that technology change. So these are available to help accommodate for teaching those new skills or even upskilling teams. There's also going to be workflows within Pinnacle Series, and these are documenting standard operating procedures within actual project work. So a good example is project setup. How do we ensure that this is being executed in a consistent fashion? So workflows are really going to help documenting those best practices. There's also hundreds of documents within Pinnacle Series spanning across different technologies. Documents will be easily consumable resources for frequently asked questions or how-to documents. And then videos are providing a micro-learning experience. So videos will be roughly 5 minutes or less within the platform to get a quick tip or trick and get back on to project work. So again, those will come prepackaged out of the box when you're subscribing to different libraries within Pinnacle Series. What starts to set us apart, though, is that we also understand many organizations have their own way of delivering training. So what we allow you the ability to do is actually build out your own custom libraries if you would like to. It's completely optional and available with Pinnacle Series. So if you have published best practices and standards that you would like to bring in and establish a single source of truth for staff to reference, they would be able to come in and easily browse any of the libraries that you may be choosing to build based on the resources that you have already created specific to your organization. So that's just a quick example of how we can organize some of those libraries for your organization. Now, I'd really like to talk a little bit more about the learning available within Pinnacle Series. So that first common challenge that I talked about around how do we deliver a continuous learning experience when staff need to onboard, they need to upskill, reskill, cross-train, any of those instances, that is a good example of when a learning experience is going to come into play. Now, any of the learning can either be self-enrolled or enrolled by a manager for staff to go through and consume. It is a self-paced environment. So you'll see that I can come back in and pick back up where I left off within my learning experience. Now, diving into any of the courses that have been published by our subject experts, the way that you'll view this structured learning is you have your training curriculum listed here on the left. It will consist of text-based documentation. There is video content to teach new skills of this technology. There's also downloadable exercises in both metric and imperial units to practice the new skills that were learned throughout the course. And at the end, we follow up with a quiz to really validate whether or not they retained those new skills within this course. Again, something that I will circle back to quite a few times throughout the presentation is the idea of customization. What begins to set Pinnacle Series apart from others out there is that, yes, we do deliver training on a global scale of how to best adopt these technologies, but we also allow for complete customization of learning within Pinnacle Series. What we encourage many organizations to do is actually identify who your subject experts are internally and elevate their permission so that they have the ability to manage your own content. So anyone with those elevated permissions would need access to our management utility. And this is where we can easily manage and publish some of your own custom training materials to be delivered within the solution. We recommend harvesting any existing materials you may have. With a quick drag and drop, we do support universal documents to easily be published within the platform. So Word documents, PDF documents, HTML files, you can drag and drop those into the platform. Same with MP4 files with a drag and drop in. Any of those existing training resources can be published within here. When we think about the structured learning, then what we want to do is either build the learning experience completely from scratch. It is optional to do. Otherwise, you can choose to copy down any resources that has been published within the platform from the public subscription to begin customizing. So rather than having to recreate the wheel and start from scratch, we encourage to copy down what our subject experts have published and modify from there. So maybe diving into the introduction to Revit. We may not need this specific video. You can choose to remove that and then go ahead and add in any of those custom resources that you have just imported into the platform. So here's a welcome to the team example. You can begin out that learning experience and apply that. So it's a big time saver when it comes to building out your own custom training materials. Once that has been customized, we can go ahead and make that available for staff to self-enroll. Otherwise, we can take advantage of the ability to assign courses. So anyone in charge of assigning and overseeing a learning experience would have access to assigning those courses out. So you can pick and choose individual courses, entire learning paths that needs to be assigned out. You can assign this to individual users who have access to Pinnacle Series or groups of people who have been identified. We can then go ahead and assign a due date to help with accountability and ensure the assigner is going to stay up to date with email enrollment notifications. So as this is coming due or is being completed, you as the assigner will stay up to date with that. We can also take advantage of auto enrollment. So maybe you want to streamline and take out the fact of having to manually assign this out to new hires joining the organization. We can set up the simple auto enrollments to streamline that positioning. And now what I also want to talk about is what makes learning within Pinnacle Series go one step further. So we've looked at our standard courses. We have looked at customizing courses. What really starts to make Pinnacle Series a differentiator is our ability to generate what we call targeted skills gap personalized learning. Now, Rose at the beginning mentioned we have recently acquired Knowledge Smart. So you may be familiar with Knowledge Smart and Pinnacle Series. So if you are, you've known that Pinnacle Series and Knowledge Smart has been integrated for about 5 years now to really deliver and maximize the productivity within technologies in the AEC space. Now, with the acquisition, anyone who is unfamiliar with Knowledge Smart, they are a global leader in AEC assessments. Our platforms are already integrated, but with this acquisition, this means that we're going to be continuously evolving the skills analysis and auditing capabilities between the two platforms to make sure that this is all being delivered within one solution and continue bringing more value into the AEC spaces. I do want to talk a little bit about what that integration looks like today. We are able to assign out these assessments. These will span across not only technology skill sets, but also soft skills and professional skills that can be utilized. Now, these are published by subject experts in these technologies, as well as those soft skills and professional skills. It is completely customizable as well, making sure that you're really assessing the skills specific to staff in a way that you hope to analyze and benchmark those skills. So it is completely customizable. Once you go ahead and identify the appropriate assessment, you can assign this out to individual users or groups of people. Now, when you think of a group of people who are utilizing Revit, for example, you will have anywhere from the fundamentals staff with those beginner level skill sets all the way to your experts using this technology. So it's been identified as a challenge to really hone in and deliver that personalized training experience targeting different skill sets. This is where Knowledge Smart will really come into play and gain a lot of value. One other great feature is the ability to assign out assessments to interviewees. So validating the skill sets that candidates claim they have on their resume, you can definitely take advantage of that. Now, by assigning this out, teams of people will be asked a series of questions that are both knowledge-based and task-based questions. It's honing in and identifying those skills gaps, analysis, and benchmarking their skills. But what happens back in the Pinnacle Series solution is we will be generated what we call that targeted personalized learning experience. So I'm enrolled in a few courses here that have a trophy associated to them, and that's to identify that I went ahead and completed that assessment prior to being assigned into my personalized learning within Pinnacle Series. What I want to point out here is I am currently enrolled in 12 out of 18 courses. So based on my assessment results, I tested out of 6 full courses here. If I also expand on the show all topics, there's also a trophy associated to standalone course content. This also is meaning that I am testing out of course content itself. So I only need to spend my time in learning to learn those new skills that I don't know, rather than spending my time in learning to relearn the skills that I already know. So it is a huge time saver when it comes to delivering learning to groups of people who have those varying skill sets. Now, at Eaglepoint, we really believe in the most successful approach to delivering training is a blended learning environment. So what we want to do is complement e-learning with live training. So we have integrated a live events calendar that is available within Pinnacle Series to complement those two learnings together. What we can do is choose to publish any of your custom live events that may be taking place. So if you have lunch and learns, brown bag events, any of those events, you can publish those within the platform for staff to register for. With a subscription to Pinnacle Series, our subject experts are also hosting a series of events, making sure that staff can also register for these and attend. They will be recorded and published within the Pinnacle Series platform for anyone who missed the event to go back and reference. When registering for any events here, staff will receive an ICS file in a confirmation email to attach on their daily used calendar. And the power of this is that we're really able to schedule, manage, and track everything associated to that continuous learning experience. So back in our management utility with those elevated permissions, anyone who needs insights into the learning experience would have access to our learning reports. Now, this is going to provide a quick dashboard that can easily be updated and filtered to have insight into current enrollments, what's being completed for a learning experience, who the top learners are within your organization, how much time is being spent in learning, what is currently in progress, and even those upcoming live events. What sessions are coming up that staff have registered for, and what has been completed. So we're really able to capture and track all of this learning experience within one solution. Now, diving in, if you need to filter these reports even further, we can definitely do so. So I want to show just how granular we can get into this data. You can definitely filter reports by specific users or groups of people, and then choose to dive into the raw data. So this will give you better insight into the structured learning that is being completed. And you can dive in to see who is being enrolled into that, whether they're in progress, have not started, when they were enrolled into that, who assigned this out, when it is due, how much of that learning has been consumed, and then if there is a quiz associated to it, how did they score on that quiz? So this report is going to give you a lot of those insights that you may be learning to track a learning experience. And all of this can easily then be exported to an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file. Now that is in a learning report from an administrator standpoint. If you are a team of people or an individual staff member looking for what has been completed within our learning center, you would have access to everything that's currently enrolled, as well as the ability to download your enrollment transcript or have insight into what has been completed. So you can jump in here and you'll be able to dive in to see when this was completed, how much was consumed within that learning experience. And as long as you are consuming 100% of the learning resources within a course, you will also be awarded a certificate of completion. This will also help, again, with those professional development hours of maintaining a professional license if that is something that is important to you. So a lot that can be done within here when it comes to making sure that we can provide a continuous learning experience within one solution for those different, whether it's technology skill sets or soft skills that you're looking to help develop teams. Now, when we think of a learning experience, though, what I want to emphasize is that learning will be a small amount of staff's time. So we really need to ensure that above the structured learning being completed here, we also want to enable staff when they are in project work. That's the majority of time that staff will spend. So once the learning has been completed, we want to enable them to apply those different skills that were learned from completing that structured learning experience. So whether staff come across a roadblock or do want to reference best practices while they are in project work, they would easily be able to do so by simply choosing to browse the asset library, otherwise come in and use the search engine to search on keywords of what they may be stuck on. This will provide different resources that are relevant to the keywords being searched on. So maybe it was, maybe it's a document that they're looking for. They would be able to read through this quick how-to document or tip or trick. There's also going to be related items over here to quickly navigate to additional resources. Above the documents published within Pinnacle Series is going to be thousands of videos spanning across different technologies. Within videos, you are definitely able to speed these up. You can slow them down. They do have those control functions. They will also be transcribed for staff to easily read along with what is being said within the video. If you choose to translate anything within the platform, the transcription as well as the closed captioning within the video would be translated. If you are also choosing to publish any of your own custom videos within Pinnacle Series, you're able to author in other native languages, and you can also take advantage of the auto transcription within the management utility as well. A couple of great items is you can recommend any resources within Pinnacle Series to help with the overall search algorithm. You can also easily share out the knowledge. So maybe this was something that you remember a coworker asking about a week ago, or even any point in time, and you remember that this is maybe a helpful tip or trick that you would like to share out with them. You can easily share any resource within Pinnacle Series, choosing to either copy the link, share it via email or notification, to really make sure that your teams are referencing all the helpful information that is being published within here. You can also establish subject experts, making sure that if you have experts in other office locations of a different technology, staff are being provided information of who the right subject experts are to reach out to. Now, the last resource that I want to highlight, and really my favorite resource that's been published within Pinnacle Series, is going to be our workflows. And workflows will guide users through best practices and standard operating procedures to increase modeling consistency when they're in project work. So the way that you'll view a workflow is you have your workflow tree outlining different processes here on the left. And in the center, you have a visual flow chart to help provide who is responsible for what processes within this overall workflow. You can navigate through these a couple of different ways, and the steps and tasks with instructions will be populated over here on the right. They will be embedded with some helpful links. So maybe it's a quick reference video that they need to consume to make sure that they fully understand what this task is assigning. Otherwise, they can also navigate through the visual flow chart here. And again, those steps and tasks will be populated over on the right. There are some additional helpful tool links available within workflows. We've actually integrated the Pinnacle Series solution with Revit, AutoCAD, and Civil 3D to allow staff to not only be guided through those best practices, but also run commands in project work at the right point in time. So this is definitely a big differentiator as well with the Pinnacle Series solution in that integration capability to run custom commands in project work from the Pinnacle Series solution. Whether they are in Pinnacle Series and need to run that command, they can do so. Otherwise, if they are in their project work, there is also going to be this related learning topics plugin. It's a completely optional feature of Pinnacle Series that can be utilized. What happens with this, though, is it is going to stay up to date and provide contextual learning topics based on the commands being run in project work. So if I were to run the doors command, it is going to update with some of the reference materials to quickly navigate into Pinnacle Series and consume. So this will really help to decrease the amount of time that staff may spend searching for the right resources. You can choose to simply minimize this and bring it back up when you do get stuck, or toggle on that you do not want to see this anymore, or even stay on top of your project work. Again, it is completely optional, but it is a big time saver, making sure that you do not have to search or browse even within the Pinnacle Series platform. That is going to provide those contextual learning topics for you. Now, the last area I'd like to highlight here is going to be the My Work Groups, the last commonly used area on the Pinnacle Series solution. Work groups will be a great place to collaborate for a group of people. Now, one good example of this is going to be a group of people working on a specific project together. What we want to share here is all the relevant resources specific to this project. Maybe it is the best practices, the project standards, a BIM checklist, or even the specific learning associated to this project. Once we have organized those resources here, what we can do is then go ahead and invite in appropriate members, whether it is your internal staff members working on this project, or even external sub-consultants and contractors. What we want to do is make sure that everyone working all the way from design to build will have the ability to consume the same resources. So by inviting those external users in, they will only have the visibility into those resources that have been shared to this work group, rather than everything that's being published within Pinnacle Series. You can also assign out learning to those external users and hold them accountable with completing that learning, and have access to a dashboard report of what is being consumed within the specific work group. There will be a discussion thread for overall collaboration for this group of people as well, and everyone will stay up to date through notifications directly within Pinnacle Series. Now, a couple of quick items. If for any reason you are offline, we do have the ability to download any content for offline viewing. So maybe you're traveling, or maybe you do not have access to Wi-Fi. Any materials can be available for offline viewing. Now, earlier we looked at the learning reports. There is a second report type that I'd like to quickly touch base on, because everything being completed within Pinnacle Series is actually being tracked. So within our usage report, we are tracking who is logging into the solution and how often they're logging in. Not only that, what are they consuming? So which resources are they viewing? Maybe your best practices have been published as a workflow. You can actually have insight into how often your teams are referencing those best practices and following along with them. Otherwise, any additional resources, we are tracking how often those are being accessed. We're also tracking the search engine of those keywords being searched on. We have the most accessed content. If your subject experts are publishing content, we're tracking what's being published. We're also tracking who has access to the platform over a period of time. So from a technical configuration standpoint, it is very easy to get Pinnacle Series configured. It is easy to manage your users. What we recommend doing is syncing with your Active Directory and automating that sync on a task scheduler so you do not have to manage your users in a platform. Or you can take advantage of the ability to import users via a spreadsheet. We can also configure single sign-on for authentication so that staff do not have to remember another password. And then talking about permissions throughout this presentation, you can elevate the appropriate permissions for different groups of people. Maybe it's someone in human resources who needs the ability to assign learning and view reports. You can have complete control over that. Otherwise, maybe it's your subject experts needing content manager permissions. You will have complete control over who has access into what functionality within the Pinnacle Series solution. All right, now it has been a lot that I have covered. So I do want to quickly recap a little bit of what we've covered. So feel free if you wanted to either screenshot the current slide or anything that I'm showing for note purposes. I want to quickly summarize everything that we've covered over the last half hour targeting Pinnacle Series. It is a solution, again, that starts with e-learning, but it goes above and beyond e-learning. So we really capture a continuous learning experience within Pinnacle Series. We provide the ability to capture your internal subject experts' knowledge and have the ability to share it out for further collaboration with teams, and helping to increase productivity, making sure that there is increased consistency in your models. So with all of those challenges, it's really accommodating through it spans across the different resources that we viewed within Pinnacle Series for the structured learning paths, the micro learning videos, easily consumable documents, the assessments with Knowledge Smart for skills gap analysis and benchmarking, the workflows to increase the modeling consistency by documenting best practices, work groups to organize resources for any group of people, live events to complement the e-learning and capture a blended learning environment. And then, of course, the robust reporting is also available with the Pinnacle Series platform. Now, I would like to hand it back over to Rose to talk more about what a subscription to Pinnacle Series looks like.
Thanks so much, Haley, and thank you for an excellent presentation. Hopefully it was really informative for everybody and you have a good understanding of what Pinnacle Series can do for you. So next steps, we'd love to talk to you about the subscription models we have available for your organization. So this will really depend on the size of your organization. I'm going to focus first on smaller to mid-sized organizations. What that means for you is you get access for all your users. You can pick and choose the asset libraries. So Haley talked about the endless customization of Pinnacle Series that also goes or applies to our asset library. So you can turn off what's irrelevant, add subscriptions that make sense for your organization. And we also expect SolidCAD to publish content in 2022. So there's a lot that you can do there, as well as create your own. Then we have content available in over 90 languages. So as Haley mentioned, if that's not, if English is not your preferred language, it's really per user. So you can have multiple languages in your organization. Great reporting available. We have an open API for content development, but also to pull data into maybe a learning management system or any other system that you're using. You'll get unlimited cloud storage for all that content and all the data. I talked about customization already. Haley made a good point about the Active Directory we have and single sign-on options to make this an even better experience. And then there's a lot more that we can talk about today, but I think it makes sense to connect with your SolidCAD representative or talk to Ava about your options. What I do want to mention is that if you are a larger organization, if you are working with SolidCAD, then we do have an enterprise model available to you. And then you'll work with somebody like Haley to really make sure that we adopt the platform correctly and that we will drive usage and generate awareness. So that those are a couple of things I want to highlight there. But at this point in time, I'll turn it back over to Ava.
Thank you, Rose. So as Rose has mentioned, any questions that you have in regards to the subscription, feel free to reach out to sales@solidcad.ca, or if you're working with your dedicated SolidCAD account manager already, then feel free to reach out to him or her. I'm going to open up to the floor now. Any questions here? I'm going to unmute the audience.
Yeah, and maybe before anybody unmutes, there were some questions that have come in. So let me pick that first one. The question was, who creates the content? So that's a really good question. So as mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we have on staff architects and engineers, construction managers that all have experience working in the field. So they're not just experts in the software, they're experts using the software, working on projects, and they're facing the challenges that you're facing on a daily basis. So the content is really developed around those challenges, around those frequently asked questions, on top of just the fundamentals and intermediate and advanced training. So that's the first half of that answer. Then the second half is, like I mentioned earlier, we're expecting SolidCAD to launch content within Pinnacle Series at the beginning of 2022. So that will make it an even more complete solution, and we'll have content specific to the Canadian market and maybe standards over there too. So that's a good first question. But Ava, I'll turn it over to you. I'm not sure if anybody unmuted themselves.
I don't see any, and I don't see anybody raising their hands either.
There's another question we can answer from the Q&A, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Rose.
Okay, perfect. So one question is, how up to date is the content? We're part of the Autodesk Developer Network, so we do get early access to, let's say, Revit 2023 or 2022, and that allows us to take a look at all that, all the new releases and updates that were made, and we have that content updated within 30 days of the release. So, and usually it's much sooner than that too. So as soon as there's a new update, you'll have access to the latest and greatest. So that's a really good question.
I wanted to reiterate that the platform, it's, unlimited storage. There's no limit. If you wanted to upload videos, feel free, because I know that there's a lot of companies now out there are doing their own training videos and then upload it to a centralized platform. So, I mean, with Pinnacle Series, you can do that as well. Yeah. Any other question, Rose?
I don't see any others, no. If there's anything else that Haley you'd like to mention, or Ava, maybe you have something that came up during the presentation that we can touch on.
Yeah, and another question is, how secure is your content?
That's a really good question. So yeah, so the content platform, everything is backed up by Microsoft Azure. So it's very secure. And then on top of that too, what's good to know is that every client will receive their own tenant. So any information that you upload to the Pinnacle Series will just be visible to you. So when we talk about, uploading all your standards, you obviously want to make sure that nobody else has access to those. So that is all backed by Azure, and it's super safe. So if you do have any questions on that or would like to see some more information, definitely reach out to a SolidCAD account manager, and we'll send some information your way. But yeah, along with that unlimited cloud storage, you'll have the security, or you can trust that everything is safe in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that's about all the questions we have. And like I said, if you feel free to reach out to any of us if you want more questions, or even discuss further about the Pinnacle Series. So if there are no other questions or comments, I'd like to close the webinar. Thanks for attending. Thank you, Rose, and thank you, Haley.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ava. Have a great day, everybody.